Teraz sa posunieme k ďalšiemu takému legendárnemu formátu, ktorý sa pripája k tomuto online vysielaniu Dní architektúry a dizajnu, ktoré teraz vlastne ale opúšťame a pustíme sa do Clubovky. Tam sú dôležité také tie slogany, že dobrá káva, dobrý dizajn, dobrí ľudia, krásne veci, krásne emócie a hodnoty. A teda víziou a motiváciou novej série Clubovky je preskúmať a využiť architektúru ako médium na posilnenie kultúrnej a individuálnej dôvery, na podporu miestnej ekonomiky a ekologickej rovnováhy. Clubovka prináša expertov vo svojom fachu a s takým sa o malú chvíľu spojíme. Poďme do Clubovky. A pokračujeme ďalej, teda už v Clubovke 2021, štvrtkový program pokračuje ďalším skvelým príhovorom, prezentáciou zahraničného hostia. A teda nestáva sa často, aby sme hostili v programe architekta píšuceho v azbuke. Dnes to napravíme, ale teda ovláda istotne aj latinku, pretože sa pohybuje v západnej Európe. Porozpráva o tom sám. Program pokračuje prezentáciou Alexandra Brodskeho. Jeho práca sa vyznačuje záujmom o tradičnú stavbu s využitím miestnych materiálov na architektúru, ktorá oslavuje ruské dedičstvo a zároveň pôsobí ako kritika neregulovaného a skorumpovaného stavebného priemyslu. My si vypočujeme viac od samotného Alexandra, ktorý je už takisto pripojený k nášmu štúdiu v Live Parku. Alexander Brodsky, are you with us? Can you hear me? Are we connected?
Yes, I hope so. Hello.
Alexander, it's a pleasure to have you with us, and we are looking forward to hearing you, to see your presentation. You can start.
Thank you. Hello. Hello. I'm sorry, I have some problems with my voice. Not loud enough, but I hope. Can you hear me? It's okay.
It's okay.
So my name is Alexander Brodsky. I live in Moscow. I was born in Moscow and got architectural education in Moscow Architectural School. Finished this in 1978, a long time ago. So since that time, for 20 years, I was thinking about architecture. It was not easy to do this. Some young architects at that time didn't want to go to the big official institutions and preferred to do some art or something close to the architecture, but not actually architecture. That's how I spent 20 years after school. With my friend Ilya Utkin, we were making a lot of different things on the border between architecture and art. Our favorite technique became etching at some moment. A really beautiful thing. We were inspired by Piranesi, and we got all the equipment, and we got this printing press, and we spent hours and hours doing this thing, etching. Really amazing, beautiful technique. So we made some installations. Then I made sculptures. I worked as a cartoon artist made film, a lot of different things, and only the one thing I couldn't do was to design buildings. So I made some interiors at that time in the early 80s, during 80s, maybe 2 or 3 interior spaces, which was very close to architecture, but still it was not enough for us. And only, yes, and during this time, we to be somehow closer to architecture. We managed to take part in some foreign Western architectural competitions, the conceptual competitions. Most part of them were held in Japan. Some magazines like Japanese Architect and Shinkin-Shiku and some others. So for us, it was the only way to touch architecture, to do something architectural. It was architectural competition, only they were not supposed to be built. It was only idea on a piece of paper, but for us it was a really big thing. And we started, because before it was strictly prohibited in our country to take part in these competitions. You couldn't send your entry by mail to any country. It was not allowed. So in late 80s, it's finally they allowed us to do this, and a big company of young architects started doing these competitions. We were among them. We didn't miss anyone for several years, and sometimes we got some prizes, which was amazing. And after all, after 20 years in the year 2000, when we already didn't work together with my friends, I worked separately, the situation changed totally in our country, and we could open our little private offices, architectural offices, and make private commissions, and we started doing this. It was amazing. I was already quite not very old, but quite old, and I thought that it's too late for me to, after 20 years, to start to become an architect. I had big doubts, and then I got a couple small commissions, and I decided that I have to try. And somehow I made a couple little works, and I saw that it's possible, even for me. It was not too late, I understood. And so I opened a very small office. We were two of us in the beginning. And then some more people. So since that time, now it's already 20 years, we have this little office with usually 7-8 people, not more. We don't make big commissions in the city. We built mostly country houses outside of Moscow, some interiors, but quite interesting things we do, and we like very different things to do. So let's start the pictures, maybe. Yeah, so this presentation is kind of chaotic mixture of images of different works made in different times. Some of them were quite old, some of them very old, some of them more recent, and something is new. Like this first picture is the new work. It's still not completely finished. I made the project of a park outside of Moscow, like 2 hours driving from Moscow, in some private land owned by some man that I know for many years. And he decided to make a park in a wild forest. It's a kind of swamp, little river, and a lot of trees, very beautiful, completely wild place. And he wanted to make a park that will be showing this beautiful nature somehow. So I made a project of this path that goes through the park, sometimes bending and turning, sometimes like a straight line, like here in winter. This is a straight part of the path that goes through the forest and above the river. I will show more pictures for it later. So this is a portrait of a little white dog, which has actually not no exact reason to show, but it was my first etching and made in 86, I think, and very small, like a matchbox. And a portrait of a dog of my friends, and somehow it became an important little picture for me. I show it in front of a presentation for many years. Next, please. This is not an etching. This is just a drawing on a very big piece of paper. It's some imaginary city on the imaginary river. I made a big number of this panorama, long images of the city. Don't know why, but I really like these three these three lines, like this bank, then the water, and then the other bank with the city. So I made quite a number of this kind of pictures, and this is important for me. Yes, and then the next one. Yeah, so my lecture is called small temporary structures, and the reason that I called it, gave it this title, this name, is that a big part of my work through years were small temporary structures, and of course, as any architect, I would like to build something big and permanent, some huge and permanent. But for many reasons, after thinking about it, I understood that the opposite is the opposite thing, like very, very small temporary structures have some really big qualities, some important qualities for me. Firstly, of course, if you look from a big distance, you see that everything is temporary small structures. It's just the matter of comparing to some other things, like even the Egyptian pyramids, you can call a small temporary structure. So it's not disturbing me anymore. And when I see something like this, you can try to find me in this amazing landscape. It's Baalbek. It was my my dream for many years to come there. It was not possible, but a couple of years ago, I finally managed to get there and spend a day in this amazing place. I don't know if some from you never visited. It's really, I think the architect must see one of these places that is very important to look at. It's crazy, and these bricks, these pieces of stone, they are huge. They're like little houses. So the scale is absolutely incredible. But also this is we can call a small temporary structure, but it's of course half joking, but можно следующий, next please. Yeah, this is amazing. This is near Baalbek. I saw the biggest stone that was prepared for building purposes by people, or on the whole earth, it's the biggest one. Somehow it was prepared. There are two stones actually, one outside and one is half hidden in the ground. They were prepared for Baalbek, and then they didn't use them. I don't know how many years it took to cut this stone, two stones, and then they didn't use them. So it's amazing. Next, please. Yeah, and so I wanted to show some place that for many years was for me a very important source of inspiration for my drawing, for the architecture, for everything, for life. You know. It's not this. This is a very typical near Moscow house, dacha house, country house. Not dacha, it's just country house in villages. Beautiful old houses. They were everywhere, thousands of them. Now, year by year, day by day, they disappear. You still can find them, but not so many, and they're dying, they're disappearing. So I have a little country house near Moscow, and near it was a beautiful village of these buildings. People were quite happy there, but so next, please. Some examples of this that still exist now. And then in early 60s, the government decided to make these people more happy. So they took them out of their houses. Next, please. And they built this kind of architecture for them, for these peasants, and they were removed to this concrete panel apartment buildings, and they really suffered, especially old people that were used to work on the ground and have some animals and plant something. They didn't know what to do. They were depressed. But next, please. And then they found a way to survive. They took over the big piece of land across the road, and without any permission, quite absolutely illegally, they built kind of alternative village, quite a big place with streets, squares, with no plan, with nothing, and using just found or stolen materials like old garages or old pieces of metal, fabric, wood, everything that they could get. And it was there from early 60s, and finally it was totally destroyed about half a year ago. So it existed for quite a long time. Next, please. Yeah, so it's a very poor, honest architecture made without any architects. And of course, in every country, we can find, I think, some examples of this kind of architecture, but they all different, they all unique. And for me, I visited this village many, many times in my life, being a schoolboy, and then later and later, until it was destroyed. I was coming there, and there were fires there, and they built again something. Okay, next, please. Next, please. So the streets, the colors are amazing, and so on. Next, please. Yeah. So some of them are really kind of painting the green and blue together, and so on. Next, please. Yes. Next. Yeah. So they look a bit sad, maybe quite sad, but very beautiful, I think. Next, please. Yeah, some of them look even contemporary. So yeah, and then I want to show a little installation that was made many years ago in some small village far away from Moscow, with a beautiful landscape on the river. There was an architectural art festival, and there was a church, beautiful old church, and the cemetery near the church. And I built this little thing on the edge of the cemetery, like a little place with fence and bed there, looking at the wonderful landscape. So it looks a bit like a grave, but it was not a grave. It was a place to lie down on this bed and just look at the landscape and think. So it was used for many years and it's still there. Next, please. Yes, and after, as I told, for 20 years I was thinking about building something even very small. I never, I didn't have any hope to build some serious things, but I thought even if I can build, I don't know, the little shed or something, any little structure, I will be happy. And in the year 2000, when the situation changed and the private offices were allowed, I got I got two permissions. One was the apartment of my friend gallerist, and it was the first thing. And then there was the summer restaurant, and that was the first building I made. It was summer structure, open. Next, please, on the beautiful lake near Moscow, and it was my first commission. I was really frightened to death, and I thought that I would have a lot of time to make a design project, but I made the first sketch model, and the client said, "Okay, that's enough. Let's start building," which was crazy, but I couldn't protest. He said, "Okay, tomorrow we start," and took this model. It was everything was there, but it was quite a sketch model. But in a couple of months, they built the whole thing just based on this model. And after when the building was finished, the model disappeared, or just fell apart, because every worker was taking it and looking and so on and so on. So this is the summer restaurant in winter. Next, please. It was half in the forest, half on the water, and all the vertical structure elements were at this angle. So the name of the restaurant was 95 degrees, and I think it was built for one summer, but now it's 21 year. It's there, it still works. So it's small structure, but not so temporary. Next, please. Yeah, they come from all over the lake to eat in the restaurants, on the boats. Next, please. Some fragments, very simple, wood and plastic and some metal. Next, please. Yes, this was called the VIP room on the roof on the top. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah. In the same area, this was a really temporary thing. A cafe built near the water on the lake, from wood and plastic. The plastic roof was all covered with plastic bags, thousands of plastic bags, and they gave amazing sound on the wind that was blowing day and night from the lake. So it was there for a couple of years, and then they destroyed it because they needed this place for something else. Next. Here's some fragments. Next. Next. Yeah, it was called Cloud Cafe, and it was a very simple thing. Next, please. Then, at the same time, working in this office, of course, we had to make some money. That was important for our life. So, of course, we made some commissions that was not temporary structure, but houses for families. And it was nice work too, but somehow the more fun and some good emotions I got from making these short life small things. Firstly, it was very fast, which is sometimes you're really tired of every architect knows that you have to be really patient because everything is slow. The project's been making for a long time, and then all these regulations and everything you have to show to the clients and to some other people, and so then the building process is always very, very long, at least in Russia. Then a lot of mistakes of workers, of architects, of everyone, and then altogether it takes, of course, quite a lot of time, which is okay. And then in the end, you have a long time working building, but sometimes you want to make something very fast when you have an idea, and then in 2 days it's there, and people come and you can use it and you can look at it. So, so I never refused to make when someone asked me to design some very short life pavilion. I usually did this, and it was nice time. Next, please. So this was called the Vodka Ceremony Pavilion. It was published in magazines, so maybe some of you have seen it already. It was built of old windows from the Moscow old factory that was demolished by some Moscow architects at this moment, and I got windows, and in 3 days we built this with one little drawing instead of project. And it was there for, I don't know, more than, it was built for one weekend, and it was there for more than 10 years. People would come, and then finally it disappeared. Next, please. Some fragments. I painted it white myself. Then after this, yes, please. Yeah, this was another very small structure on the lake. In winter, on the ice in the middle of the lake, we built this ice bar. Next, please. We made this wooden structure and the metal mesh and poured water from the lake. And the frost was so hot, so it became a wall. The ice with metal inside. But when it was too warm, of course, it melted, and it existed only 2 months. Then everything melted. The ice of the lake and the ice of this house, everything disappeared. Next, please. This is a small structure, but not so temporary. It's already working for a few years. I don't know, maybe it will be a few years more, but it's the only thing we built outside of our country, which is very, very strange. We never work abroad, but this was an interesting project where organized by our Austrian institution, the Architectural Centrum in Vienna. They asked 8 or 10, I don't remember, architects from different countries to design the bus stops for the some long road near the Switzerland border in the mountains of Austrian mountains. And we were invited, and we made this strange little structure as a bus stop. It was a great work for us because some very famous architects took part in this, and it was very nice to work in collaboration with carpenters from this village. Was very great experience, very nice, and it's still there. Next, please. Yeah, it's still there, so it works as a bus stop. People use it, and who knows, maybe it will be there for many years. I don't know. Next, please. Yes. Okay, next, please. Yeah, this was another. Some of them had a really short life, but some of them, for some reason, stayed alive much more time than it was supposed to be. So this is the pavilion called Rotonda, built so many years ago, about more than 10 years ago, in a beautiful place near Moscow, just to observe the landscape. They commissioned me to design something for the point that they found in a field with really beautiful surrounding. And next, please. So I designed this oval shape in plan pavilion with first floor with these old doors taken from some demolished houses, and there is a level of entresol. You can open the door, you can climb up and look from the window, and you can get on the roof and see the landscape from that level. And somehow it became very popular. It's still there for quite many years now, and a lot of people come and they stay there. In summer, there is a chimney in the middle, and in summer, a lot of people sleep there. So it's still working. Next, please. So what was interesting for me in terms of architecture, how the inside space changes according to the number of open and closed doors. If you open one door, it's just a room with a door, then you open 2, 3 changes, and you open all of them. It's quite transparent structure, and it was interesting. Next, please. So view from inside. Next. From the top. I designed 2 versions of this rotunda. One is this one, and the other one I made in some Siberian Russian city, Perm, Ural, far away from Moscow, for my exhibition in the museum. And I found a lot of white old doors from late 40s and windows from some cabinets, and I asked them to give it for me, to build this other pavilion. Next, please. Yeah, so this is it. It's only doors with no walls, and it was traveling a lot. So, for many years, they took it apart. The museum took it apart and took it to different countries. It was in Milan. It was in some cities in Russia. The first place it visited after Russia was Paris. Next, please. And it was standing near Louvre in Tuileries Garden. Okay. Next, please. Something happened. I cannot get back. I don't know what happened. I hear you, but I don't see anything. It's strange. It just suddenly the picture disappeared, and now I have this Brodsky Alexander joined at 1940. Identification. Maybe I should turn off and do it from the beginning. No. But I don't see the picture, so I can. It's difficult for me to follow the story. What to do? I don't know what happened. Oh yes, it came back. Okay. Okay, I'm very sorry. I have problems with all the computer things. I touch it and immediately it's out of order. Always something happens. So this is near Louvre in Tuileries Garden. It was there for a few months. Next, please. Next. Yes. And then it went. I don't know where is it now. So it was traveling a lot through a few years. Next, please. Yeah, this was in several years ago. I don't remember the year. It was in Venice Biennale. Maybe some of you were there and saw this pavilion. I was invited by the curator of this Biennale, Aravena, the wonderful person, with the architect, and he told that I can choose. It was early, very early before the beginning, and I could choose the place for the installation. So I couldn't go to Venice, but we looked at Google and we found this wonderful place in the corner of two canals behind Arsenale, and we decided that it's the best place. And I designed this very small pavilion that was called the shed, made of wood and covered with this beautiful material that I use a lot in my work as an architect and as an artist, which in Russian it's called ruberoid, but it's a roof felt in English, I think. It's the cheapest roof material that they sell in Russia. They're big rolls, and for many, many years they use it. It's not so much used right now. It's too old-fashioned, but it's very beautiful. So I brought these rolls of this stuff to Venice, and we built this thing. So it's also not straight, and you cannot come in. There is no door, so it's only this opening that shows you a wonderful picture of faraway church and this landscape of Venice. It's amazing. And on this side, near the wall, there is a chest. I made it from clay, and in the end of the exhibition, it was all gone with the water, with rain, so there was no chest in the end. Next, please. So this is someone took these pictures in the fog, which was beautiful. Next. 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 Yeah, this opening. Next, please. Yeah, so this was a wonderful time to build this. We spent like maybe 3 weeks so building this so with my kids, and this was really a happy moment. It was amazing. Next, please. Another temporary thing built in Tbilisi. Tbilisi is the capital of Georgia, beautiful city. I love it for many years, and there was some architectural biennale there, and I was asked to build something, some pavilion for this event. So we built something that was supposed to be quite long life thing, not temporary, but it happens that so it's opposite. Like you build something for 3 days and it stays there for 20 years, and then this was made for years and it stayed there for 1 year, even less. For some reason they destroyed. It's a pavilion made of very old glass blocks from some old factory, and this, of course, this ruberoid, the same roof stuff. Next, please. It's a round thing with this high roof and the chimney in the very middle. Next. This is the interior. It has this fireplace, and then we brought. It was for drinking. We have this chacha, very strong alcohol in Georgia, and this was for this. We brought some boxes instead of chairs around the fire, and a lot of people would come, make the fire, and sitting, drinking, talking. So it was quite popular, but then for some reason it was destroyed. Next, please. And this was in 1917. There was 100 years of Russian Soviet socialist revolution in 1917. So 2017, a lot of people somehow celebrated this moment, and a lot of exhibitions basically about the Russian constructivism, the avant-garde, things like that. And for instance, in London, there were like several exhibitions in different museums dedicated to revolution, 100 years from that moment, and architecture, art, and so on. There is the institution called Pushkin House in London. They decided to make an exhibition about Russian poets somehow abused by Soviet power. Many poets were displaced. They were sent to, some of them to the camps, to prison. Some of them had to immigrate because they couldn't, they were not allowed to stay in their countries, or they went to different cities, somewhere to the north. So there were 20 poets in this exhibition, and they asked me to design a pavilion outside of the house in the garden, in the park, the little city park, where will be exhibited these poems and something else. So this was kind of the train wagon. Next, please. It had this opening on the bottom, so no doors. You had to kind of get in from underneath, and then only the legs of people were visible. It was made of course, it's the same material, same ruberoid, and it had the shape of the train machine. And inside, when you get in, next, please. Yes. Next, please. Yeah, when we got in, it was dark, and there were just 20 poems in English and Russian hanging on the walls, and in both ends of this space were videos. One video from the beginning of the train that goes to winter from summer, and at the back there was the back window that was going from summer to winter, and the sound. So it was kind of a train going to the north. And these poems are amazing, of course. Next, please. This was a very important, very small, but kind of temporary structure, which is very unusual. But it was very important work because it's a little shed in the garden of Melnikov house in Moscow. You all know, I think, Melnikov and his house where he lived. I think it's the most important, the most beautiful, and the most important modern building in Moscow and probably in the whole country. For me, it's something really important. I was there many times. It's a museum now, and it's incredible building. But it's a small house, and they didn't have toilet. They couldn't let people go in Melnikov's toilet, so they didn't have toilets for excursions, and they didn't have the bookstore. They didn't have space to sell books and some pictures and some posters. And they found that there was a little shed built by Melnikov for the garden equipment, but it was burnt even when Melnikov was still alive, so a long time ago, and he never rebuilt it. So they found the documents, the place where it was located, and they asked us to make kind of replica. There was no photographs at all, so we only had the dimensions, about 2 by 4 meters, 8 square meters, and the height 1.80 meters, and 1 slope roof and 1 little window and door. That was all we knew. And on that place, we built this little shed with a little bookshop inside, and it's there now. Next, please. This is a very, very common picture for my country, Soviet Union, and now Russia. I think you recognize it, probably. It's a very, very local thing. It's the prefabricated concrete fence designed in early 60s, I guess. And after all this time, it occupies a lot of space in the country, kilometers and kilometers of these fences everywhere. So people either hate them, or they just don't notice them because it's everywhere in front of you. But for me, they were really beautiful all the time. So I was dreaming to build something out of this stuff. Next, please. And this is fragments. Next, please. Yeah, firstly, we built for some art festival this pavilion, little concrete house for the tree. It was there for a couple of years, and then it was taken apart. Next, please. And this was my dream, to build a little house for people to live using this thing. Next. Finally, a few years ago, we built this house called Villa PO2. This was the official name, PO2, of this panel. Next, please. So it's a very small palazzo concrete from outside and wooden from inside. Next, please. Old build of this old used panels. So, next, please. This is inside. Next, please. This is the skylight. So a lot of people would come there, and they were all the time. They were really surprised how beautiful these panels are. But they said we never would see how beautiful it was. But now we see that it's beautiful. So that was one of our goals. Next, please. There's a little story in the comics kind of pictures about the artist that doesn't want to use anything made by other people, because we all live in between the things made by other people. Everything that we have, everything that we use, any little thing made by some people somewhere. And being an artist, I use pencil. I cannot make a pencil. I have to buy it. I cannot make paper, and so on and so on. So this was kind of disturbing, this thought. And I thought, what can the artist do with no help of any other creature? And I finally thought that, okay, you dig clay by hands and make some sculpture of clay. And here you see the artist that is naked because he doesn't use clothes made by other people. He comes out in his house and he forgot to take off his glasses, but then he remembers, he throws glasses away, and he goes to the field and he gets some clay from the ground and he makes a sculpture. So clay, next please. Clay many years ago became very special material for me. I've made many different things of clay, and I never fired it. It's not ceramic, it's kind of dust. It's unfired clay always. I just make it dry, and it's very fragile, which I like. The texture is, you see that it's dust and it can become dust again any moment. But also, if you don't touch it, don't drop it, don't wet it, it stays forever. So this was a huge exhibition of, next please, of clay objects from everyday's life in New York, in the gallery called Gray Matter. Gray matter of clay and gray matter of brain work together. Next please. The thing was I was making objects without looking at them, just taking the memories from my head. Next, please. It was quite difficult sometimes to, you remember the thing very good, but when you start make it of clay, a lot of details you don't remember. So, next. This is the installation made in 1998, I think, called Coma. It's about the big city, probably Moscow, probably something else, but I thought about Moscow. A huge metal container, and I made the clay city, the model, big scale, and there were these containers with black oil and the needles from the hospital all around the city. And then during the exhibition, the oil was dripping from every needle, very slowly filling up the container. So the city was sinking in black oil, became Venice, and then almost disappeared. Next, please. There were some videos that I made in Moscow. So this was big work, a lot of buildings, but it was amazing experience when you very fast you create the city. You make streets, you make squares, rivers, and so on. Next, please. is already with a lot of oil there. Next, please. Some other clay work. This is the truck with the cinema inside. Next, please. People sitting there, and there's a video with a road running. So they move, staying at this place. Next, please. Next, please. Some little installation, the homeless guy on the bench. Next, please. At some moment, I decided that I have to try to make very thin and flat kind of clay drawings. Of course, they have this metal mesh inside, otherwise they wouldn't survive, but they're very, very fragile. They're really thin and really big. So I made a lot of this stuff and for some exhibitions, and some of them went to museums. And every time someone took it, I thought that it will not reach the place, but they all survived. Next, please. Some things like that. Next. Yeah, next, please. Some other clay work. Clay dog watching clay TV. Next, please. And this was the workshop I made a couple of years ago in Amsterdam in the Academy of Architecture. Winter workshop. I had 154 students, and I had to make something with them. So I decided that we make a big clay city, and in 2 weeks they created this huge, amazing city. Next, please. Next, please. This is the view from the inside yard of the academy, and we occupied almost the whole yard with this city, which had this features of many different cities, like it was partly New York, Manhattan, partly Venice, Rome, and others. Next, please. Yeah, next, please. And it was living the normal life, but very fast. It was outside, so firstly it was raining, so it got wet and started disappearing in water. Then it was, next, please. It was snowing, and it all was covered with snow. Next, please. And the snow melted. Next, please. Next, please. Yes, and then finally it became very scary landscape. Next, please. Next, please. Next, please. Yeah, in the end it was covered with some salt. This white is not snow, it's hard stuff. It's some kind of salt came out of the clay and dried. So it was changing all the time. Then finally it was taken apart and removed. Next, please. Next, please. Next. Yes, winter. Next. I'm sorry, it's too many pictures. Just next. 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 Yes. This is one of my favorite works. So that I made. It was called Cisterna. It was a big installation, very simple, in an amazing place in Moscow. Discovered at that moment the old container for water in case of nuclear war, made in 60s and secretly, and it was lost, was forgotten for many years, and only in 2000 something they discovered it, and someone bought it and someone bought it and made art space there. So I was the first, and I think the only artist who made the installation in the space. So I made fake windows because it's all under the ground. Sorry. Someone trying to call me. So it's like five floors under the ground, concrete round structure, really dark and scary. And I made windows everywhere that had light and that had wind. So there were white curtains that were always moving in the wind. So the illusion was really absolutely looked like you are in the tower or in the day with some sunlight. So a lot of people really forgot that they went 15 meters down under the ground. They were sure that they're in some tower. Next, please. Next. Yes, and so this is some fragment of old wooden path that I found in one place in the village, and it was really inspiring. And then when I had got the commission to build a park, which was 2 years ago, I was inspired by this fragment. Next, please. And I designed this wooden path firstly, and then some pavilions that included there. And it's not something new. I didn't invent anything, but it was amazing how it works, because you go, it's a little bit above the ground. So you go through this up and down, but this is always straight line, and sometimes it's there across the rivers and everywhere. So you look at the nature from some other angle, and it works perfectly. Next, please. Next, please. So there is a tower there, and next, please. Some little pavilions where you can sit and even eat and sleep. Always hidden in the trees and grass. It's a very beautiful place. Next, please. This is inside the tower. Next. This is the rotunda. The road goes there. Next, please. Piece of the river. Yes, this is the road in winter. Next. Next, please. Next, please. This is a little bridge across the river where you can sit and look around, and it's all very, very peaceful, beautiful place. Next, please. Also, every pavilion is a library. It has a lot of books everywhere. Next, please. This is the end of the story, and this is like a dog. I always, for many years, I show this as an example of great art piece. I would be happy to do something like this, but I cannot. It's the drawing of my son when he was 3.5 years old. Now he's 26. And it's called Mother Putting Drops into the Nose. I think it's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Tak to bola záverečná hviezda dnešného večera. Our special guest, Alexander Brodsky. Alexander, thank you very much. It It was a pleasure to spend time with you, and thank you for handling and solving all technical issues. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm very sorry for being so, stupid with these machines.
It was absolutely perfect and, of course, very inspiring presentation. One more time, thank you very much, and we're wishing you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Alexander Brodsky, jedinečná osobnosť na Clubovke 2021 a teda navyše aj teda hosť z kúta sveta, ktorý nenavštevujeme tak často a ktorý by si určite zaslúžil viacero takých návštev. Clubovka sa určite o takéto aktivity bude pokúšať aj v budúcnosti. Bola to nádherná prezentácia, teda úžasné impresie a inšpirácie, ktoré prišli od Alexandra Brodskeho do nášho spoločného večera vďaka tomuto online vysielaniu. A ešte 2 klubovky nás čakajú v priebehu programu tohto ročníka Dní architektúry a dizajnu a filmu.